Boom. All right, guys, it's James, man. I wanted to jump on here as a follow-up here in this recorded Zoom call. That's what we're doing. I've got my good buddies Daryl and Trent here joining me. It's great. Thank you both for jumping on here with me. I can do this alone. No sweat. It doesn't bother me, but it's great to have you guys jump on here and take action and kind of walk through this a little bit with me. You know, I put out a post several days ago that talked about Zoom fatigue, and you know, it got me thinking about first impressions, for example, you know, and for some of us, I know Daryl for sure, I'm not too sure in Trent, in your case, about like customer interactions and client walk-ins and all that type of stuff. You have a great online presence and brand, more e-commerce, I would imagine, but you might be in like product development or business development and those types of things, or maybe even some JVs and meeting on Zooms, whatever. The bottom line is I think this Zoom, and you hear me using the word Zoom, it's like saying a Kleenex. You know, so my hat's off to Zoom for crushing that damn thing. But, you know, the point is first impressions are always important. You know, me in particular, I've been in consulting my whole career, to be honest with you. So for about 22 years, I've been in the consulting business to government space. So at a very young age, my mentor, civil engineer at the time, was throwing me into city council meetings and getting in front of the mayor, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to meet the mayor. You know, it was a crazy thing being a 21-year-old kid doing some of the stuff that I do. City council meetings, you know, public works directors, city engineers, things like that. You know, Daryl, I know you're interacting with a lot of that on the government side as well. And the bottom line is first impressions are obviously important. They mean something, in my opinion, a little bit different in 2021 and beyond, as we all jumped into Zoom in this pandemic. And all I really wanted to do is highlight some of the obvious things and ways we can take advantage of Zoom. So the first and foremost thing that I figured I would talk about is if you're someone like me and you're on Zooms 3, 4, 5 times a day, and maybe even more importantly, if you are responsible for hosting the Zoom. It's one thing to be jumping on other people's Zooms. We'll talk about that as well, but I'm someone who's typically scheduling my Zooms. So, you know, the point of this video isn't really to dive deep into training and jump here and share my screen and show you all the stuff, but more just talking points. So I figured I'll talk about a couple points and, you know, just yell at me if you have something to add to it. You guys are value added members here. So we'll just go from there. So the first and foremost thing I talk about is getting yourself a scheduler, like a Calendly. HubSpot is the CRM that our company uses. And what this allows us to do is to just book that Zoom link right in through there. So you can create your calendar item. I know Daryl and I connected that way through Messenger, I believe. I just said, hey, James, you were introduced to me about government space. You know, can we set something up? I just said, boom, here's my link. Daryl's able to click on that link. He looks at my calendar, and it's strategically set up to be convenient for me, but it's also now convenient for you because you can go through that and say, hey, this is the time slot that makes sense. You can set all those types of things up, you know, so that's kind of the first part of it. The other thing you can do to get real creative, like what I just did just now, I did an impromptu Zoom meeting with you two, right? I jumped on Facebook at, gosh, I don't know, 5 o'clock and said, hey, I'm going to run a Zoom. Who wants to join me? Luckily, you guys did. Otherwise, it'd be crickets and I'd be talking to the camera, which is cool. But I got two of my buddies right here hanging out with me, which is awesome. But what you guys did was you clicked on a specific link, a domain, if you were paying attention. Zoom with JG3. JG3 is a nickname, you know, part of my branding stuff for all these types of things that I do. And it's very simple to do something like that. So when you step up to a Zoom plan, there's a couple ways you can integrate your domain. I did it the old school, old fashioned, cheapest ways possible. So what I did is I went to Google Domains. I grabbed a domain called zoomwithjg3.com, probably $10 for the year. And then I went to my DNS, domain, you know, network settings, if you will, and basically just found my Zoom link that is always scheduled, you know, my meeting ID, if you will, that there's a dedicated link for you when you sign up as a Zoom customer. And I just have that domain pointing right to that. So it's just on demand. And it's really great because you would like to think that we're all pros now doing Zoom, but I'm sure you two, myself included, it happened yesterday where someone's like, hey, the Zoom link doesn't work. And I'm like, yeah, it does. It works. I mean, I'm on it right now, you know, but we're not here to throw shade. You know, some people are not as technologically advanced, or there are issues. I was telling Daryl, Trent, I'm not sure if I got to you before we hit record. Man, I'm the one setting up the Zoom and I'm running late to it because not only did I have Zoom fatigue, my computer had Zoom fatigue and the camera tapped out. It just died, and it said, hey, we're not working right now. But anyway, so these are a couple quick hit things that you can do. You can control your calendar, schedule that link. You can shoot that out through like your Facebook Messenger if you operate that way. If you're, kind of old school like me and probably Daryl in government space, it's send it through the email. And, it works out very well. The other side of that is when you're scheduling the impromptu stuff, because that happens too. You can just shoot that branded link. So now you're branded, hit me up at zoomwiththehustle.com, whatever it is for Trent, now we're branding that Zoom link for your energy brand and all that stuff and your entrepreneurship brand. And Daryl, same with you with the inspector, Zoom with the home inspector pro, whatever you come up with, right? Right. And it's these little things that are subtle. I mean, I've told you both before I hit record, I'm not going to blow your minds here. I'm not here to drop this amazing $10 million value on you. But hopefully this does provide some value to everyone out there and yourselves, because these little things are important. Again, first impression. So people that are meeting with me, if they meet with me often enough, I'm throwing that link, they're now it's just Zoom with JG3. They already know they're conditioned to do it. Okay, we'll get that out of the way. Does that make some sense to you guys? Do you guys have any feedback on those types of things or have experienced that yourself?
Oh, I love that. Sorry to jump in there, Daryl. No, I love that. I've noticed a couple of people do that. They'll have like their domain name /live or something like that. It takes them to a live Zoom recording, and I've liked that. I personally haven't integrated it yet, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. The same here. Although I'm kind of big on that. When I see businesses, they've got their own website and everything, but they're still using @gmail.com or @yahoo.com. I'm kind of scratching my head. It's like, okay. But it seems like, right, what you're sharing is even with Zoom, you can make it your own.
That's right. That's actually a pain point that I have or not a pain point. It's excuse me, how do I want to say that? It's
a peeve?
A pet peeve of mine. I've got a couple degrees hanging on the wall, whatever, it's your office, you got your backgrounds. We're going to talk about that in a second. But, in the earlier days, I went back to school and said, I want to go into information technology. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to necessarily want to be an entrepreneur in my 20s. I had a great job. I was working through that career. I've always been entrepreneurial and entrepreneur, but the bottom line is I liked data sets. I liked figuring out how things worked. I knew that was probably the future. With all that said, I kind of went into the domain, web and email world. It's almost like being a lawyer in the healthcare services when you're in IT. It's like, what do you specialize in? Security, database, networking, Cisco, what's your Cisco cert? All that different stuff. But I never got all that high level with it, man. I just wanted to kind of learn a couple things. And I thought it'd be cool to go back to school with 2 kids, a mortgage, working full time and grab a degree. What an idiot. But I did it. So these types of things made so much sense to me. Dimitri's going to join. Let me add him on here and we'll catch up with him real quick and just keep this thing rolling, man. See, he's connecting to audio.
Nice ceiling.
There he is. Hey, what's up, Dimitri? How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, bro. Good, man. Thanks for jumping in here.
Thanks.
I appreciate you, man. I'm just running a little recorded session on trying to add some value on Zoom meetings, Zoom fatigue, all that stuff. Thanks for joining, man. So if you don't mind me recording this, I'm already about halfway through, but hey, what the hell, man? Thanks for joining. So the only thing we kind of were running through right now is a couple just quick hits, and I will post this video when it's all said and done. I'll get this thing up in the cloud and get it posted with a link for everybody. But we talked about how you could leverage a service like Calendly or something through HubSpot to book your meetings, and you can automatically direct your Zoom link in there. So it's going to go find your calendar and get that set up. I use that a lot for the impromptu type Zoom meetings. I've got a branded Zoom link. I just went to Google Domains and bought a domain, Zoom with JG3. It forwards and just points. Nothing fancy here. I can be fancy, don't have to be fancy all the time. And that's what you guys saw. You all clicked on my branded Zoom link to get here, right? So it's these little things like that, because what we're really talking about is first impressions. So Zoom, it can be a lot about first impressions. It's one thing to be with your network or with your, hanging out. Hell, for a lot of us in the pandemic, we were doing Zoom calls and wine, and for me, bourbon, but with friends and stuff like that, because we were looking for outlets. But I've been in the consulting space for so many years, and first room impressions are huge to me. What I do when I walk into a room, I look at like, what are my talking points? You know what I mean? So that's kind of what's showing in my background behind me. Now, when I built my office up this way, it wasn't for Zoom. It was for me to walk in the office and hopefully pick out one thing in here and say, okay, man, I'm ready to go today. You know what I mean? But what I've found obviously here is the way you set up your backgrounds, and, however you do that, it can provide a lot of value for talking points. So let me explain this. So what I tend to do is I'll jump on the meeting and I'll maybe excuse myself. See, Daryl's got one back there. That's probably, you're in production too with your church, correct?
Correct. Right.
So this is a good one, a great talking point here. I'll talk about mine. And, we got the brick wall and Dimitri just showed up like, hey, I'm taking action and jumping on this call right now. Let's do it. So in this case, it gives you those talking points. So you guys saw me excuse myself and go grab a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty common. My damn phone's ringing. This is real life, man. It is what it is. I'll hang up on them. But because it's just, we all know it's a tell 'em. Come on. No one's calling a pavement management company at 5:40 p.m. wanting to land a $50,000 deal, are they? So probably not. In any case, so something I started doing was, after I picked up on what I'm about to say, is I'd say, hey guys, thanks for joining the call, especially if it's more than one person. I'll go excuse myself, grab a water. If you guys have not, Trent, if you can do something with hustle and coffee, I'm in. Let's figure that one out, dude. Coke and coffee, man. This thing's delicious. Drew's going to enter the room. I promise I won't keep backslide, man. We'll just keep this thing going. But it's great to kind of build up a little bit of a network here as we talk. Yeah. I'll get Drew in here. He's connecting to audio. Trent, let's figure out the hustle and coffee, bud. I'm telling you.
Well, I'll tell you while Drew's connecting. I did do the branding on my calendar, so I didn't do it with the Zoom.
Okay.
But I use Acuity scheduling for my calendar, and it's branded hustletheday.as.me. So when you schedule something with me, that is branded, and then it automatically generates a Zoom link and sends it to you. But for those impromptu things, it would be really smart to have that branded URL.
Absolutely, man. So it's great to see you taking action on that and just finding ways to, you're in that branding space for sure. I'm trying to jump into it, the Goalden Collective initiative that I'm running. Pavement management group is doing well for us. Again, it's that classic 10-year overnight success story that's just now starting to get traction. But I'm kind of venturing out into some other areas. So I've been really getting into learning about branding and marketing a little bit better. I've got great coaches and mentors like we all do in groups. So Drew, can you hear us? See if we got him. Drew, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear y'all. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the video.
Dude, perfect, man. Well, thanks for joining, man. We'll keep rolling, man. We're in this for about 20 minutes now, Drew. We're just talking about how to leverage Zoom. I'm recording it. We're having fun. I got a hard stop around 6 anyway. Got to go pick up my daughter and do the family thing. So, but this is cool. Thanks for jumping on, Drew, man. We're just talking about leveraging Zoom and how to become more of the attractive character in your space and how these first impressions with Zoom, you can leverage them. So you can kind of catch up in that first 20 minutes. We were just talking about branding your Zoom link, using a scheduler, stuff like that. The next thing I'm really going to kind of just talk about is what I was getting into is like your backgrounds. So there's obviously a couple ways to do this if you can. And I remember when I really first picked up on this was when I was watching a Gary Vaynerchuk video about 3 years ago. And that dude just kind of vibed with me because he's around my age. I'm going to be 43 this year. I saw on his back wall, he's got like the stuff from his like nostalgia, like the starting lineups and things like this. I'm like, I got one of those. I got Bo Jackson in my office. You know what I mean? So I'm in a temporary office when I set mine up a couple years ago, but it just, for me, I was paying attention, but at the same time, I was looking at what else is going on back there. And I think we all do that, especially when you're about to have from a sales perspective, very important. If I'm going to sell Daryl on my GovCon Profits mastermind that I got coming up, I want to know a little bit about Daryl, Val. Hey, man, tell me about that. It's a great background, man. Are you a producer, a DJ? What are you doing out there? And guess what he gets to do? He gets to explain something that's important to him and that is valuable in his life. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a background. So when I kind of excuse myself and come back in the room, there's two things that are happening. I guarantee someone on the call is probably looking like, what the hell does that say? Is that a Jim Kelly jersey? Jim Kelly jersey. Oh, okay. It looks like the dude's got a couple degrees. Cool. And Oh, is that a Ford Raptor? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Clearly he's into success, whatever. So this guy's motivated. Awesome. Now they know who they're going to get.
I noticed the Raptor.
Yeah. You noticed the Raptor. Now, again, I park back here. It really is not by design. If you were to walk in my office any day of the week, you would not see any strategy here. It was happenstance, but I'm rolling with it. Mm-hmm. So what happened was, like, I'm talking to public works directors or street superintendents. A lot of these guys are truck guys. You know what I mean? And I had someone one day at the end of the meeting say, "Hey, Jane, that all sounds great. Send the proposal out. By the way, whose Raptor is that?" And I'm like, "Raptor." I'm like, "Oh, that's mine." And it was cool to kind of have that conversation and go through at that. I was talking with a city northern Ohio just the other day, and they see the Buffalo Bills jersey, right? And they're like, "Are you a Jim Kelly fan? Are you a Bills fan?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Well, how about our two teams this year?" So all of a sudden, like, you're talking about football when you had no intention of talking about football or trucks or success or, by the way, what school did you go to? Did you go to Ohio State? No, I didn't, man. I didn't get to do that. But now I get to start talking about my story without me having to just go on and on and on about myself. Mm-hmm. So we can really leverage Zoom to provide those first impressions both ways, because it allows you to set your stage and it allows you to read the room and say, okay, like, honestly, like in Trent's case right now, I don't really have much to read. Otherwise, I'm going to say, dude, that's a sweet beard, man. And what headphones are you using? I'm always looking to get new headphones, man. So you can see how you can just quickly pick up on anything you want. Drew, are those Oakleys?
No, Barnett's.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. I'm looking for a pair. You can see I got glasses now. I'm looking for some sunglasses. Dimitri, I love polo, man. I got half my closet's polo, bro. I mean, boom, I can just go around the room and just find something. I mean, that's what it's all about, is making connections. And the Zoom backgrounds just help, man. You can find little ways to do it. That's what I was going to recommend is,
Drew, yeah. We can also see in his glasses what kind of phone he has.
That's right. That's right. So I'm always a student. At the same time, I'm always looking for a way to, especially on sales calls, especially in my world, like business to government. A lot of times I've been fortunate that these public works directors, city engineers, sometimes it's a council member, they'll jump on here. But guess what? They've probably got more meetings today than I do. You know what I mean? Just because they're in a reactive state. So my job is to get on here, get to the point, but we all have to find a quick way to connect. And if it's me finding something that I can read in the room, awesome. Otherwise, I'm hoping I can set the stage for them to find something as well. So that's really it, man. I mean, again, I told you I wasn't going to come in here and blow your mind with some crazy stuff, but sometimes it's having those conversations about the obvious that kind of get us thinking and finding some ways. And I know, like, Drew's a great example. He's in, and that's what we'll do, man. I want you all to introduce each other to each other here in a second too. We'll kind of go around and kind of knock that out. But I know, like, Drew's in the concrete jungle land, man. He's in hardscapes. He creates awesome tiki huts. He calls them palapas, I believe. I learned that when I was with him. I didn't know what the hell that was. But he's in a killer space. So he's mobile. He's out and about probably 10, 12 hours a day, barring sunlight right now. So, I mean, if he's going to be on a Zoom call, he's probably not like in this office environment like some of us, you know what I mean? So anything that you can do, Drew, simple, like, hey, I got a Zoom call. Let me stand behind and put the palapa behind me, you know what I mean? Or have my guys and my crew working behind me, or my truck, whatever it is. So Dimitri, man, I've never got to meet you in person. So it's great to meet you. Why don't you turn off the mic, man, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on?
I'm a real estate investor and general contractor based out of Philadelphia.
Philly, okay.
I this year I'm really like retrenching, because last year basically I had so many people let me down. I got rid of everybody.
Yeah.
So it sounds great to get these big contracts, but I can't imagine, how do you staff up for all these jobs? Like,
how did you, what was that last part?
How do you staff up for all these jobs? Next week I'm going to go off with some of the Arete guys to the Blue Collar American Dream Conference in Florida, because my business just needs help.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, that's why we all do this. It's great to connect with other business
lose
owners.
this steam. Either I have to change markets or change.
Yep. It looks like I think his connection is freezing up a little bit. Are you guys seeing that too?
Mhm.
Oh, there you're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, man, it's like it's that's why it's always great. Like the groups we talk about, Arte, Apex, you know, we're all related in some form to that group. That's even why we're on the call. It's not because I'm some amazing dude or y'all are some amazing guys, man. It's just like, hey, we connected through a group. Someone else built that in their own mind and just kind of worked through that. And that's what we should all be trying to do with ourselves. We don't need to duplicate or replicate what they've done for us, but find our own small ways to do that, you know. So this is great to branch off into small little groups, like go down with some other Arate members to what was it called, Dimitri? The Blue
Collar American Dream Conference. So
Sounds cool. Who runs that?
I think Lee Haight, and but Ed's going to be there too, among other
Oh, okay.
Brad Lee, some other speakers.
Yeah, I've heard.
And it's going to be like an in-person event. You know, just like I guess Stuman talked about the MDM coming back
Yes,
in person. Yeah, that's going to be a big deal as well.
that is. I just booked my tickets for that earlier today.
Awesome.
So would love to share a bourbon with you guys out there, whoever comes. So you can usually find me at, low key. I'm at the bourbon bar afterwards. So that's just me. But no, I mean, again, it's great for, like-minded folks to come together on these types of calls. That's why these groups were created, because then you get a little bit more intimate with each other from time to time, and find some ways. And Dimitri, man, we'd love to have you come join the Goalden Collective. It's a free group. I'm not trying to like monetize that or anything like that. That's not what my mission is today. I've got a business I'm running, but at the same time, I'm trying to set myself up for my next chapter and some things that I'd like to do. And you can ask Drew, and that's what we're going to start doing. Is it's more of a mentorship based group than like a coaching group. So the concept would be to come in there and, maybe someone's struggling in their spiritual life, maybe. And Daryl maybe is speaking on that. He's the great type of attractive character for that space. And maybe there's a connection and he can help through mentorship. If anything ever turns into like scopes of work, then I tell everybody in the Goalden Collective, like, then, hey, that's different, man. Go create a project or whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? But the goal is to kind of take certain aspects of these other groups that I've been in over the last several years and say, how would I do this? What am I thinking? What value do you think I bring and others can bring to a group? And the point is try to get others to kind of stand up and have a little bit of a voice and get their message out there a little bit. And no one has to worry about focusing on transacting dollars and cents or revenues. We all have businesses. We're all doing that. This is a place where we can kind of come together and honestly level up. You know what I mean? I'm pretty passionate about that stuff. I wouldn't have done it if, I wasn't, passionate about it. It took me a while to get here. I kind of had that imposter syndrome a little bit, like, oh, there's already groups out there. Why am I going to start a group? But I don't really look at it as a group. I honestly look at it as an initiative, and the group is just one of the platforms that's there. You know what I mean? So that's it, man. Yeah, create more relationships, and just really work to help others the best way that we can. In terms of a mentor, I had a really good mentor in my life for 13 years. That person taught me everything I knew about what I'm doing. And had I not had that, I really don't know. Who knows what I'd be doing today? I have no clue. I've been a mentor as well. So, through the federal government's program SCORE, I mean, I was a mentor because I wanted to learn what mentorship was really like and what it was all about. And I did that. The problem with just that being a federal, I'm sure the feds are listening, is the challenge there is it's almost pitched as coaching, to be honest with you. So you have people coming in with basically zero background, no business plan, saying, James, I need you to help me with my business plan. And it's like, well, okay, remember, I'm a volunteer over here. So what have you thought of? Nothing. I just know that I want to be a diet coach. Oh, okay, well, we can build that whole thing out, but that's not being a mentor. That's giving you a business, right? Like, I'm open to trying to figure out the line between I'm mentoring versus I'm building your business for you for free. You know what I mean? So it was tough. So what happened was, and again, maybe it's part of the market I'm in too, so people are like, oh, James is over there. Let's go talk to him. Book my calendar. I had 3 different individuals that were trying to build like legitimate businesses from zero. And I'm like, this is really, the program's really designed to be mentors. So like you jumped into the space and you want to find someone that you can align with to kind of just have some talking points. Maybe they're a level or two above you, you know what I mean? And they've kind of been through some of those challenges that you're facing. And that's how I see this group. You know, it's a group of all of us from anywhere from 0 to probably the 6-figure range in terms of revenues and sales. You know, some of us in the 7-figure range, but we've been there and we can kind of work through some of those challenges that some others are facing. You know what I mean? So kind of very niche, you know, so we'll see how that goes. But, you know, Dimitri, another potential avenue to come on in there, and it's low key. It's a small group. So maybe a little bit more actionable content and get some things going in there, and just for what it's worth. Because you kind of hit the nail on the head, you know, for a lot of us, it's how do we keep things afloat? How do we, you know, a lot of our businesses need help. And I will tell you, the way I got help was the good old fashioned way, man. 10 years of hard work, trial, error, failure, two steps forward, 3 steps back. I've done that for 10 years, man. And it took to year 9 to say, fine, I'm done. I'm hiring a coach. Bring in the relief pitcher, man. Let's get him in here. And I found someone who I looked up to and had a lot of value in, that I thought that they could come in right away. I didn't need, again, I wasn't starting a business from scratch. Just, I'm profitable. I bring in great revenues. I have a team here. How do I like harness that and delegate a little bit further? This person came in, helped me out in 6 months, and, you know, things are just growing great, you know. But others are just starting their business, or we've had some hardships around here. You know, I'm not ignoring that fact. I'm very fortunate that I'm somewhat like essential services. You know what I mean? Governments need information, they need their data. So I did lose some contract value while folks took a hold on, you know, we know how cities operate. It's tax dollars. So if tax dollars aren't coming in, let's hit a timeout on the data collection guy, so we can take care of our fire, EMS, our public service, and those things, you know, which makes a ton of sense. So I had some challenges I had to navigate a year ago, March, April, May. Fortunately, in Ohio, we didn't really lock down, you know, tremendously. The governor kind of came through and laid out a pretty solid action plan for our state that seemed to make sense, where a lot of us were able to keep moving forward and working. Even the bars and restaurants kind of were able to kind of navigate through that a little bit. Of course, they took a hit, but maybe, I don't know, like in the Philadelphia area, you know what I'm saying? Like with Dimitri, I mean, I don't know what that could have been like, you know, different demographic, different part of the country.
You weren't allowed to be open. You weren't allowed to do anything.
Exactly.
They forced GCs to get akin to like an OSHA training, COVID training. And then you see on the work sites, people have different levels of not caring. I mean, you know, if you can't convince people to wear a dust mask when doing demo work.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah, then we got some challenges.
At least you have a governor with some sense in your state.
Yeah, and that was the thing, you know, again, to each its own. We all have our opinions on a lot of this stuff. And when our governor was one of the first to start actually taking action on enforcing certain things and locking certain things down, from my side, I'll be honest, I lean right. You know, it's just the way I run. And I was a little upset about that initially, because it was like, wait a second, I think we're taking, maybe jumping the gun a little bit here. But as that week or that day turned into a week, and he had a consistent daily briefing going over, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we're seeing, here's what we're doing. You can appreciate things like that, because now all of a sudden it seems like there's an actual plan in place. And it's the same thing like for my business. That's what I tell my customers. I'm like, look, the reason why the taxpayers are upset with the road network is because they don't know what you're doing. They don't know, they have no idea how that $2.6 million that they think they're paying for is being allocated. They just know it, they throw it out there, and their road did not get done yet another year. So if you can leverage up our data and create that action plan, and then put the map out there and show them, here's why, here's how we qualify roads for treatments and at age, and all of a sudden they start to buy in. And the ones that are proactive kind of get behind that. And I think that was the case in our state. You know, we were able to kind of rally around that as a state and work through it. You know, I mean, we have all different parts of the country represented in just 5 people here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
In my state, we have the very inefficient PennDOT system for highways.
Yep.
I think we're like in the bottom 10 of this, like 40th something in the country.
And
So whatever systems and operations you have would probably work real well if you can navigate the politics or help me navigate the politics of this area.
man, you're hitting the nail on the head. That's what we're doing is luckily for us, I'll tell you, remember that mentor that I had? That man was in, state and local government, as a contractor and a consultant going back in the 60s and 70s. So the way they got things done back then was how much money you got, what strip clubs do you know, and what golf courses can we get you to? You know what I mean? Get him in there. He would, I'm not joking. He's like the Myrtle Beach trips. He would ship them in. He'd have the strippers lined up. He'd have everything laid out. I mean, now, again, 60s and 70s guys, it was wrong. Of course it was wrong. No one's going to argue that was wrong, but that's how a lot of these politics and things did get done. I mean, I'm just being honest. So luckily, I think now it's more of a level playing field in terms of the politics side. But what you got to deal with is they still have their process or their way of thinking and doing things, and maybe not being receptive and open to other ideas. So, because you can't, there's some of the stories this man told me just blew my mind. That's all I can say.
And sometimes the governments have to be dragged to certain things. COVID has taken a lot of different stuff that we take for granted and just flipped it on its head.
Absolutely.
When you think about even business travel, and the airlines, my God, from Zion, if the company is doing Zooms and is able to still continue to have their sales, continue to be productive.
Yep.
Okay, well, why do I have to spend $2,000 to send someone somewhere on a plane?
Man, you're crushing it. I'll tell you, like my wife is she works for a very large company. That company went unicorn in the first year. It's basically a holding company, and they're in a similar type of spot that I'm at. They own and operate a wide variety of like IEP and school administration related software products. And so their contracts are at the state level for their type of systems, and then school district kind of piggyback off of that. And my wife was one of those. She's a solutions consultant. She was traveling, and hell, maybe 100 of them out there throughout the country traveling. And then you have this situation, like you just mentioned, Daryl. It's like, wait a second, we're still closing business. We're still getting things done, and we can at least be safe and practice, caution. Let's keep doing it. And in my world, I'm 1/10 of that or whatever, but it's the same thing. I was traveling so much. If we go back to Facebook things, I think in 2019, I said, hey, I'm on the pavement management tour. I was I was all over the place. And then all of a sudden, 2020, I was nowhere. So I'm like, well, let's fix things up a little bit here. But I will tell you, just my small business, I saved around $18,000 in travel just by not doing it in 2020. Yet I closed 35% more business than I did in 2019.
Wow.
So it's like, and then when you can get your customer, especially like the government, to say, we can adopt this, we can figure it out, let's do it. The first couple council meetings I had to attend virtually were rocky and weird. Those types of things. I like to be in front and read the room. Kind of like I'm talking about here on these Zoom calls. And man, it was just me staring at a wall. So, and I'm just like, okay, let's go, James, old school. Let's go to the PowerPoint, and I just do my PowerPoint thing and you take some questions, but luckily they've evolved, I think what everybody's done is this pandemic has forced us to find another way. Zoom was kind of first to market. I was telling the guys earlier before a couple of you jumped on that Zoom is like the Kleenex of web conferencing. We say we're going to Zoom. That's why in my link, it's Zoom with JG3. Just go right to it. Or like Trent was messing with your link, your branded link for scheduling. So I don't know, man, full circle. I appreciate you all. I'm going to go grab dinner with the fam, and we're having a cookout. It's 56 degrees out here in Ohio today.
All right. Enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you
thanks,
all, man.
James.
I'll go ahead and hit finalize this thing up. I'll post it tomorrow, and I'm really glad a few of you jumped on here to have fun with me. Hopefully we had a good time, and we'll do some more stuff, more live interactive things in the group for sure. in the very near future, this is a great way to just kind of kick some stuff off, man.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing, bro. And you gave me an idea. I may try and do this myself.
Absolutely, man. Great. You guys take care. Have a great night. Drew, we'll catch up soon, buddy. See you,
Nice meeting
Dimitri,
you, man.
Trent, Daryl, Drew.
Yep,
Take care,
appreciate it.
guys.